Member for Lakeland.
Mr. Speaker, violent crime is increasing under this Prime Minister. Gun crime is up 83% since the Liberals took office. At the same time, they're going to make it allowable for criminals to get house arrest instead of go to jail for armed robbery, weapons trafficking, drug trafficking, breaking and entering, possession of illegal firearms, and drive-by shootings. He's going after law-abiding Canadians, but going soft on gangsters who don't care about his rules and paperwork. Will he scrap Bill C5?
Here, here. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, our criminal justice reform legislation turns the page on failed Conservative Party policies. They claim to be tough on crime, but we're really just tough on Black Canadians and Indigenous people. What our communities need is a justice system that punishes criminals. What we don't need is a system that targets rape.
A point of order. I believe that there was a suspension of interpretation.
The translation happens. It's good there. Okay, are we ready for the Right Honourable Prime Minister? You can back up a little bit.
Mr. Speaker, our criminal justice reform legislation turns the page on failed Conservative Party policies where they claim to be tough on crime, but we're really just tough on Black Canadians and on Indigenous Canadians. What we need is a system that doesn't target people because of systemic discrimination, but sends people to prison because they struggle with addiction. This bill is another step forward to create a system that is fair, effective, and keeps Canadians safe.
The Honourable Member for Lakeland.
That's shameful. So instead of vile insults, let's actually talk about reality. It's record highs in Toronto alone for most shootings, most murders, and most people injured in 2018 or 2019. And many who harm innocent Canadians are multiple repeat offenders. But this Prime Minister, he wants to make it easier for them to stay home among their victims for crimes like sexual and physical assaults, human trafficking, kidnapping, criminal harassment, failure to give the necessities of life, and arson. These are major crimes that cause lifelong trauma and loss. So when will he stop punishing law-abiding Canadians and actually crack down on criminals?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, let us be absolutely clear and avoid any disinformation from the Conservatives. This legislation does not stop police from charging people with gun offences or prosecutors from pursuing convictions. What it does is make sure that criminals face serious penalties while addressing the overrepresentation of Black Canadians and Indigenous peoples in the criminal justice system. This is a responsible approach to keep communities safe.
The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, Thomas, 16 years of age, was shot and killed after having been stopped by an individual in an alley in the north of Montreal. Thomas was a resident of the riding of the Liberal MP for Bourassa. A 17-year-old boy shot several times in the abdomen in Laurier-Sainte-Marie died of his wounds. And now the NDP Liberal coalition, along with the Bloc Québécois, want to fast-track Bill C5, which will only help street gangs continue their shootings. Why? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives should stop it with the disinformation. This legislative measure will not stop police officers from accusing anyone or arresting anyone and won't stop prosecutors. What it will do is make sure that criminals will be severely punished whilst diminishing the overrepresentation of Black and Indigenous Canadians in our carceral system. This is a responsible approach for us to make sure that our communities are safe as compared to the failed attempts of the Conservatives of the past. The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Saint-Charles, Mr. Speaker. A criminal is a criminal is a criminal, irrespective of their race or creed. 90% of victims in 2021 are from criminal communities. So, be we white, Black, Indigenous, that changes nothing. Shooting someone illegally should be repressed, should be condemned. So why not stop C5 and install minimum Mr. Speaker, our Bill C5 puts an end to failed policies from the Conservatives that claimed that they were going to fight against criminality, but that only targeted Black people and Indigenous people. What our communities need is a justice system that punishes criminals. What we do not need is a system that targets racialized people because of systemic discrimination. This bill is a step in the right direction towards a fair and effective system that will guarantee the security of all Canadians.
Order. We might not like the questions, we might not like the answers, but we all have a right. We all have a right to speak in this House of Commons. Are we ready for the next question? Very good. The honourable member for Fundy Royal.
The Liberals' Bill C5 goes soft on violent crimes that are ripped right from the headlines. Just yesterday, a news story read, Montreal man charged with firearm offences after investigation into drive-by shootings. Mr. Speaker, this was right in the Prime Minister's own neighbourhood, yet his Bill C5 lets drive-by shooters off easy. Why is he putting his own neighbours' lives at risk with the soft on crime Bill C5?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, targeting the supply of guns and the root causes of violence is essential to ending gun and gang violence. So we're taking action by investing $250 million in communities directly to stop violence before it starts. We're banning military-style assault weapons, and we're establishing a task force with the U.S. to end smuggling. But we know there's more to do because every life lost to gun violence is one too many. So I stand with communities, experts and advocates to say, don't worry, Conservatives, we're committed to doing even more on gun control.
The honourable member for Fundy Royal.
Yet the Prime Minister's not standing with victims. Victims have spoke loud and clear. And as a matter of fact, a poll published this week found that most Canadians feel that gun violence is getting worse in their communities. But rather than stopping illegal firearms from coming across the border, the Liberals' Bill C5 will help repeat offenders charged with multiple violent gun crimes escape accountability. We know this Prime Minister likes to govern by opinion polls, so will he finally do the right thing, reverse courts, and abandon his soft on crime Bill C5?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, allow us to be very clear in the face of misinformation and disinformation from the Conservatives. This legislation does not stop police from charging people with gun offences or prosecutors from pursuing convictions. We are moving forward on stronger gun control, both by interdicting the flow of guns, illegal guns across the border, and continuing to step up on more gun control, because all Canadians are united in wanting to see less gun crime, less gun violence, and that's exactly what we're delivering in contrary to the Conservatives who want less gun control.